Yo, 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 welcome back to the MMA Short Show. As always, your boy, Steven Moustaris. And guys, man, it's Tuesday morning, and I'm still just as shocked from Saturday night than I am ever. Like, honestly, guys, what we saw Sean Strickland do to Israel Adesanya is one of the wildest things that I've ever seen. And this is exactly why I love this sport, man. Where else are you going to get something so shocking? Like, something that feels like it just stops time. Makes you question, am I alive right now? Am I dreaming right now? Like, where else are you going to get that? That's how I felt Saturday night. And it was so cool. I got to come on here and, post my reaction and everything. And shouts out to every single one of you guys that watched and commented and everything and subscribed and everything. It means the world to me. This is why I do this. I'm no expert or whatever, but I am a fan of this sport. It is my favorite sport. And I just love being able to talk to other fans out here, and to live that moment up with you guys was one of the coolest things ever. And this is where we got to get honest here, man. We got to get serious here about Israel Adesanya. And I'm going to be as honest as possible, as unbiased as possible. Like, I promise, like, this is just me being serious here. This would be devil's advocate, whatever. But it's time we get honest here about Israel Adesanya. And, my number one question leading into UFC 293, you guys go back and watch, it was my top 5 questions leading into UFC 293. Could Israel Adesanya completely just take what he just did to Alex Pereira and take all that energy and take all that momentum and really carry it, man? Because if we look back, if he didn't get that knockout against Alex Pereira in that third or that second fight or their fourth fight, whatever you want to call it, depending on what sport you're talking about, that was much needed for Izzy. After having some boring fights with Jared Cannonier, some boring fights with Marvin Vettori, the questionable fight with Robert Whittaker, a questionable fight with Jan Blachowicz, the Yoel Romero fight, there's a bunch of fights that we can sit here and talk about, man. He was due. Like, honestly, what he did to Derek Brunson, some of the most phenomenal things I've ever seen. His beatdown to Robert Whittaker, his beatdown to Paulo Costa, his knockout Alex Pereira. Like, he needed that to rejuvenate, and it felt like it was the perfect moment for Izzy to take off here. And, he had the UFC 5 cover. He's got this big documentary coming out. It really felt like, okay, Izzy, this is your chance to really, really just take number one superstar here. And my thoughts, you guys go back and watch. I was more worried that he was just going to come out there and have a boring performance and still get a win by the decision. But I was worried that it was going to be a lot like the Jared Cannonier fight type situation. And it's like, I think he just loses all momentum there. I really do. And look what happens. He goes out and loses in one of the most shocking things ever. So now this kind of has to sit there. And I've never been one to kind of sit there and throw him in the GOAT conversation or even the middleweight GOAT conversation, which I hate. I hate these GOAT conversations. I hate all this shit. I don't know why we always have to throw some titles on it. But if we have to look at it honestly, he was in that conversation. People were throwing it out there. People are just throwing him by Anderson Silva. And whether, I personally believe Anderson Silva is my GOAT, my middleweight GOAT. What he did in a run, what he did to all these people, man, some of the greatest competitors who are on the juice, all these things, man, is some of the craziest thing you could ever see. And if he did pop and if he was taking steroids, guess what? Everybody fucking was. But I'm just saying, man, for your competition, Anderson Silva, just his knockout, just his finishing rate, just the way that his ability to take out whoever, even if he was getting his ass beat. That's why I'll always have him as number one. But, when it comes to Izzy, man, now these fights with the Jared Cannonier, with the Yoel Romero, with the Marvin Vettori, with the Whittaker second fight, like with these fights out there now and the Jan fight, like it's out there now that it's like it's a little more clear, it's a little more bright now for us to see that it's like, man, like Izzy's like a few bad judges away, or even good judges, depending, because that Yoel Romero fight was close. You might be mad at the challenger for coming in and not doing anything, but he did fight a smart plan. You could be mad at Jared Cannonier for not doing the thing, but those two fights specifically, man, I'm telling you guys right now, like those were close, dude. And if Izzy didn't have this big aura around him, we're sitting here in an odd world right now where Izzy is like 3-6 in his last fight. So he's already 4-3 or whatever, and he's 3-3 against his last 6 opponents. But man, this was his moment. If we're being honest, this was his moment to take off and to continue to do it. And it really just hurts him. And it might not hurt, like for me personally, if I'm being real with you guys, like I'm never taking anything of what he's done in the past away. What he has done is etched in stone forever. The title defenses, the knockouts, everything, the performances he's done, the Kelvin Gastelum fights, the Derek Brunson performances, like I said, the Paulo Costa performance, the Robert Whittaker performances, Alex Pereira knockout. Like what this man has done is phenomenal. And the fact he's even up there in these conversations. But if we got to keep it real here, guys, like what is there left for this guy to do? Not to give him any excuses, because that's the other number. That's another big thing that really has been pissing me off. As much as I want to sit here and actually have Izzy's back here. All these people coming out here and saying it's a fluke or saying he just wasn't performing well or he had a bad night or whatever, that really frustrates me, man, because that's just taken away from how beautiful of a game plan Sean Strickland had. I thought Izzy looked perfect. I thought Izzy looked completely fine. And for those people out there saying he's just too active and everything, guys, ever since Sean Strickland came back in 2020 from his motorcycle accident, he's been just as active as Izzy. I think he's got one less fight, but he's got just as many. He's got more minutes in the octagon than Izzy does, and he's got freaking just as many, or maybe not just as many, main events. But he has what, his last 4 or 5 fights have been main events. So I'm saying he's been just as active. Like, I just don't think that's a fair statement. I just think people are looking for excuses, like as an Izzy fans. But man, Sean Strickland put the fucking work on him, guys. He did the thing. He put one of the greatest performances we've ever seen. You can't take that away from him. And yeah, it just so happens that it's sad that it happened to Izzy, but man, this is just where it's at too. Is like, where can you expect anything else from these guys? Especially like you see it all the time when we get to these guys that start getting these GOAT conversations by all of us fans, and they have all these title defenses. Like Israel Adesanya set out here to become a champion, and he did that. He set out here to probably gain a little bit more money. He did that. He set out to prove himself wrong or prove himself right, that he can actually come out here and compete with the greatest MMA fighters in the world, and he did that. And then he kept doing it. And then he kept doing it. And he's done it how many times now? And he's done it twice, technically, if you want to count getting the belt back. And he's conquered the Alex Pereira beast. He's done everything that he set out to do. And now we're sitting here like, man, like what is there left for him that's going to keep him fired up? We saw it with GSP. We saw it with Anderson Silva. We've seen it with John Jones. We've seen it with all these guys, man, and ladies. Once Amanda Nunes, Valentina, like once you get so confident and so comfortable, and you've already got everything, you're already in your satin sheets, that we like to say. Once you have it all, the money, the belts, the fame, all these things, like you're going to be sitting there like there's more pressure on you than ever. You're not going to be probably putting yourself out at risk as much because it's easy to put yourself at risk when you're like, oh, I need a highlight reel finish here to become a champion or to become a famous guy or a lady, whatever. And that's what happens. These guys do that early, and then then you're like, okay, well, now if I go out there and act stupid and try to sit here and sit on a punch and try to, out meathead this guy and punch him, try to knock him out, that's where I'm going to end up getting knocked out. That's where I'm going to end up getting finished. So you can't blame these guys for taking it a little more, quietly, a little more soft, maybe a little more, tactical. But this is where it sucks for us fans, because this is where we are hard on these guys, man. Like, if you want to be known for your legacy, which Izzy talks about, if you want to be known as player number one that Izzy talks about, these are those moments, man, and this is one of the most embarrassing fights that I've ever seen. It's one of the most embarrassing outcomes. Like, if you put yourself in Izzy's shoes, I'm not trying to be mean to Izzy. A loss is a loss. Just like Sean Strickland said, I think it was beautiful, and it's easy to say when you're winning, but we've seen it with Dominic Cruz. We've seen it with a lot of these guys, man. Once you lose, it's a fight, man. You guys are fighting 4-ounce gloves. You guys are fighting in 4-ounce gloves. You guys are fighting other world champions, world-class guys. Like, guess what? You're going to lose some. You hear it all the time. Our favorite fighters, they're always talking about how much they get their ass beat in the gym. It's fighting, guys. Anything can happen. One little slip, one little whatever, one little something. You got one little thing stuck in your head and the other guy doesn't. Maybe the other person's hungry, whatever. Like, this is why this sport's beautiful, man. And it's frustrating to sit here and try to take anything away from any of these guys. But it is true. Like, it's like, man, this was Izzy's time, and he just kind of just fucked it, man. Gets beat by a guy who's talking so much shit. He got beat by a guy that's been saying, like, man, if I lost this guy, like, there's no way I could lose this guy. And he's got all these big plans, and it sucks when the UFC are the champions, or these fighters have all these big plans for the future. Like, I'm sure Izzy's plan was to take out Sean and be, oh, I took him out so easily. Let me take out Dricus du Plessis next. And then, UFC 300, I want Hamza out. Like, that was probably his goal, right? And now look at it. He might not even get a rematch. I'm sure he probably is going to get granted it. But guys, there's a world we're sitting here where Izzy the next few fights. I mean, we saw him lose to Jan, we saw him lose to Alex, and we've seen him lose to Sean. Now he's 3-3 in his last 6 opponents. And there's a world where he lost that Jared Cannonier fight. There's a world where some people thought Robert Whitaker won those 3 of those 5 rounds in that second fight. Like, there's a world we're sitting here like he's like 3-6, 3-7 in his last 10. But there's also a world too here that we're sitting here. He gets you're telling me right now that he's guaranteed to win his next fight, even in a fight against Sean Strickland after what we just saw. He didn't even touch Sean Strickland. What happens if he fights Dricus du Plessis? Like, yeah, maybe Dricus is a little easier to hit, but Dricus is way harder and way stronger. Like, man, there's a world he could lose that fight. And then what if he gets the Hamzat fight? Say Costa actually beats Hamzat, and then they go, okay, let's just do Hamzat Izzy. Or say Izzy wins his next 2 or next one, and Hamzat wins, and they fight. There's a world he could lose to Hamzat easily. He's never fought a real grappler. Like, we saw what Jan did to him. Jan's not a real grappler. We saw what freaking Alex Pereira got a takedown on him. He's not even, like, we saw Whitaker have some success. Vittori had some success. Like, guys, it's not like, Izzy is as dominant as we once thought. Like, if we had to get honest here, man, his fights are actually a lot closer than what we remember. And I'm not sitting here saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying we got to remember this stuff now, and it's a lot easier to say because hindsight's 2020. But it's not like Izzy's guaranteed to get this belt back, and he's 34, about to be 35, which is still young, but it's still. I'm just saying, like, once you've already done everything by then, like usually you see those guys at 34 really start ramping it up, like a Sean Strickland's like, okay, man, this is when I start getting my thing. But for Izzy, man, the future is definitely up at risk right now. I don't know what could happen. Izzy doesn't seem like somebody who wants to stick around forever. I could easily see him maybe lose one more, and he's like, maybe fuck it, guys. Maybe I'm done. I've already set out to do everything. Like, this is just my time, whatever. Like, I don't see Izzy sticking around like an Anderson Silva or GSP or whatever, or any of these guys that, I guess GSP didn't stick out that too long, but I'm saying like a BJ Penn, some of these guys that we've seen stick around way too long, and then we start long in the tooth, and you're like, oh no, now we're just seeing them lose. Like, Izzy's not going to be that guy, I don't think. So I don't know, guys. And if we're being honest too, last little point, like, who is the ultimate winner here? Alex Pereira. Man, this guy out here is just a demon against this dude. Not only goes out there and within 3 fights takes him out for the championship, and has already beaten him twice in kickboxing, and takes his thing, takes everything Izzy's ever worked for within months. And then not only that, I guess he does lose, whatever, but he goes up to light heavyweight and he beats the guy that Izzy couldn't beat. And then guess what? He helped Sean Strickland. He beat Sean Strickland and then trained Sean Strickland. And then Sean Strickland beats Izzy. Like, man, come on now. Alex Pereira is a demon right now in Izzy's head. And, man, it's another crazy thing. But, guys, this is Steven Moustaris as always. And let's go, baby. Thank you for everybody that watches this. Whatever. I love you guys for real. Every single one of you I talk to, you guys, the comments and everything mean the world to me. Like I said, I don't really care about subscriptions. I don't care about getting paid on this thing. I don't really care about likes, whatever. But the comments and the nice words and you guys sharing your opinions and everything, it means the world to me. I won't lie. But, I am excited for Izzy. I do have hopes for him in this future, and I'm excited for Sean Strickland as well, and I'm sure I'll have a Sean Strickland video up now. But, as always, your boy, Steven Moustaris. Let's go, baby. Let's go.